do this. And the butcher says, okay, I'll do it. But I'm going to need those sausages back.
Oh,
that's brilliant. Brilliant.
Brilliant.
There we go.
All
It
right.
only goes downhill from here.
It must be Friday.
It is.
It must be Friday.
Hello and welcome everyone
Friday.
to another edition of the Digital Download. And I'm Rob Durant. While I may be emceeing, the guest host this week is you. The theme of this week is content, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're looking for your input, your questions, your answers. Let's go around the horn real quick with introductions and then jump right into some of the content questions. Tim, would you please kick us off?
Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. And welcome, everybody. Really looking forward to the interaction and hearing some of the questions.
Excellent. Thank you. Adam.
Hi, I'm Adam. I'm Tim's business partner and co-founder of DLA Ignite. And I enjoyed last week so much with the questions from the floor. It's really great that we're getting a chance to do it again.
Yes, I love our new format.
Yeah.
Eric.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eric. I'm Adam's younger and better looking brother. And I'm based up here in Aberdeen, Scotland. I work with Crux and we're partnered with DLA Ignite.
Tracy.
Good morning, everybody. It's morning where I am in Calgary, Canada. I am Tracy Borison, and I am a proud partner of Crux and DLA Ignite and co-founder and chief peep of Your Business Peeps community.
Longest business card you've ever seen.
Chief peep. It's like my favorite thing to say.
So chief along peep. Those lines, Tara.
Good morning. It's good morning where I am as well. I'm based in Oklahoma, and I am actually a proud partner as well with Crux and DLA Ignite, and a co-chief peep, I guess, with Tracy, because I've co-founded. That didn't come out very well, but basically I helped found the group Your Business Peeps.
Awesome. Thank you. Lenwood.
Hello, I'm Lenwood Ross. Eric and I are twins, separated at birth.
Yes.
So Adam is, of course, also my older brother. I'm
proud to be so.
I'm the founder and CEO of Accelerate.
Thank you very much. And myself, I'm Rob Durant, founder of Flywheel Results and also a proud DLA partner. So as I said, today we're going to talk about content, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Please share with us any questions you might have, any insights you might have. Let's kick it off with a softball. Well, maybe not a softball. Let's start it off with, what is good content?
Good question.
Oh, you just throwing that out to the floor?
Just throwing that out to the floor.
Ooh, me. Can I go?
Don't wait for permission.
I always have something to say. You guys are learning this about me, I think.
Yep.
Good content is partially dependent on who you are. So your personal brand. So there's 8 billion people, close to 8 billion people in the world. Every single one of them will have a different definition of what good content is. And so in order for you to show up and share what you consider good content to be, you need to know what you consider good content to be. And there's so many people I see who focus so much more on what other people think or what their target audience wants to see that they forget what they think good content is. And so it's so important to have enough clarity about your personal brand to know what good content is to you. I'll start there.
Can I jump in? There's a bit of a glaze in the screen coming from the top row. Yeah, okay.
Nobody asked you, Andrew.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheeky,
absolutely. I would say good content is content that's achieving what you want it to achieve. achieving what you want to achieve. And lots of people use content for many different things. You might be trying to build influence. Is your content building influence? Great, terrific. You might be trying to get to grow a network. Is it allowing you to grow a network? Terrific. Is it allowing you to connect with more people and have more conversations? Whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, and the fact that, you know, I guess 9 out of 10 people, if they won the 191 million euro millions tomorrow, they're probably not going to be back on LinkedIn, let's face it. So we're all here to try and do something, to try and achieve something. So our content, my tuppence worth is good content, is content that's helping you achieve your goals, whatever those may be, to become the recruiter of choice, the employer of choice, or just to build a bit of a profile for yourself. If that's what you want, if your aim is to create conversations that lead to pipeline and new orders and things like that, and your content's not doing it, then that's bad content.
The only place I've heard that word tuppence before is Mary Poppins.
Yes.
It's a very common.
Never heard that.
I want you to please, Brother Lenwood, because we are brothers, to put out a piece of content saying, and that's my tuppence worth.
You got it.
It's a very common phrase over here, and it means just chucking your 2 cents in, right?
So picking up on what Eric said and what Tracy said, good content achieves what you want it to achieve, Eric. You're absolutely right. However, 9 times out of 10, when you look out across LinkedIn specifically, because obviously it's a platform on which you can publish much weightier, bigger articles, it seems that what people's objective is complete anonymity. So they publish stuff which absolutely people take the greatest pleasure in ignoring. Further to your point, Tracy, about understanding what you consider good content to be. And, you know, there's this massive disconnect that we see time and again, which is, I'm not subject to the rubbish that you post. I don't want to hear about your brand. I don't want to hear about your sales wins. I don't want to hear about any of that. So let me tell you about my brand and what this piece of business that I've just won, because all of a sudden you're going to really love that.
Eric.
Indeed.
Yes.
And yes, I want a burrito mug, so I'll put tuppence
Yeah.
in the post.
Well, we have a few friends on the burrito that are in America and Canada who've won mugs, and I go down to the post office and they say that'll be £35 to send a £2 mug to Canada.
$50.
Yeah, exactly.
Eric, what you can do is you can get the mugs printed on demand in America and shipped. How about that?
Yeah. Let's do that.
That's a great idea.
That's an excellent idea. You put me on the spot here now. Damn it.
He had.
I think that's absolutely terrific. There are people who are actually compounding anonymity with that kind of.
And the irony of it is that they know what they consume, and somehow they think the rules that they apply to everyone else don't apply to them.
Yeah.
Tim and I have literally sat in a meeting where a sales director has said, we get our team to do cold calling. That's what we see the future. And the sales director's phone has rung and they've said, oh, I don't know who that is. And they've sent it to voicemail. And they're telling the team to go, it's like, I don't understand. Would you like a brochure? Yeah, I'd love one. Would you like a brochure? We've got an open fire here, and, you know, it's not going to be summer forever.
So we've had tapping into the community, content that's actually working for you in the way that you need. It's achieving what you need it to achieve. Adam's touched on the fact that the antithesis of that is the blankets that people put over themselves with content. What else is good content?
I think, I hate to say it because it's, people, anyway, authentic content. Okay. So what does that mean? Authentic content, right? But it's not the brochure where it's the content that is not contrived. That is the kind of content that, that really is going to have the best response and be truest to the person who's creating it. And that, I think, is really important. And my understanding is that all of the platforms are now really targeting more authentic content. they're trying to increase that.
I don't know that the platforms can really tell. I mean, we've all seen the story of the man walking to the interview and helps the stray dog and then goes into the interview and the CEO is the dog.
Well, you know what they're
It's a famous post. Yeah,
It's so good.
I think what they're doing is they're trying to use different methods to ferret out what is and that's not to say that they're somehow they're trying to encourage more authentic content. So it's not like your brochureware won't do anything. They'll let you can put it out there. It will get some views, particularly among people who are close to you, but it's not going to do that well. But they're tuning the algorithms for videos that maybe don't have borders, right? Because they think that borders means you're selling something. It doesn't necessarily mean that is what it is, but these are the kind of the ways that they're trying to ferret out bot activity and stuff that they think is harmful to the platform.
Eric, I want to pick up on something you said. Good content is content that drives the result you're looking for. That implies one is posting content with an intended result. And based on the content we're reading, can we really say that that's happening?
It's a great point. I think, and this isn't in any way meant to be disparaging of marketing teams, but I think the move from our job is to advertise this company, our job is to put a message out there, our job is to get visibility back in the analog days. Now that that's transferred to digital, I think the way we explain it is people to move to analog, from analog to digital, there is a transfer box in the middle. It's not just as simply as we used to do adverts. Now we just advertise on digital, because humans are becoming very clever and selective the more exposed we get to social media, right? But there's a transfer box in the middle. So the adverts and all the marketing knowledge and sales knowledge and leadership knowledge and all goes into the transfer box and comes out with a different flavor and a different voice these days in order to be successful. I still go back to the days when was it when Simon Sinek did Start With Why? One of my favorite TED Talks, right? He does that bit where he says, what's the difference between Gateway and Apple? Now, for me, that was one of the first exposures I had to this. He said, Gateway say, we make fantastic computers. They're really powerful. They're really cheap. Do you want to buy one? Apple say, every single thing that we do, every single ounce of our energy goes into making ours and your lives better. We plow all of our intent into making life easier and cooler. Do you want to be with us? And I got a shiver when I heard that. Because for me, that was a change. That was a change in I was like, whoa, that's it. So that for me was the fundamental bedrock of building influence and gathering fans. Here's the thing. Do you want to buy it? We are committed to making your life better and making your life cooler. Do you want to join in the party?
Yeah. You got to make that emotion. There's an emotional connection that comes with putting a purpose and mission together and communicating that.
Yeah.
And that transfer box that you talked about, I really like that, because in order to get to that message to change in the transfer box, the change has to occur in the people.
Yep.
That is the key.
Totally.
That's how you get that. That's how you get the, you know what I mean? So anyway, so that's
well, I said yes, I'll buy into that methodology, and lots of us did, right?
Yeah, I got a shiver too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I know, Eric, that you're very passionate about your Mac as well.
Yeah. I don't speak Mac, so I'm a PC guy. I think I'm the only guy in the world that uses Bing. My wife laughs at me when she comes in and sees me searching on Bing. What is that?
What is it?
That?
What is it?
Bing is an alternative to Google.
No, it's not. That's the point. So you know, we spoke earlier on about brand and content that you create and everything, and how you want to build to get the end result that ultimately you've just dug out all of your foundations for being credible, mate.
Am I now in Venice, floating? Yeah, absolutely. My goodness, eroding by the day. But that whole thing. Back to Rob's question: is there an intent behind content? Of course, there's an intent behind content. If we intend to build influence within our communities, or networks, or sectors, or verticals, whatever it is, there is a conversion box. And I'm fascinated by the fact that that's because we, and everyone on this call, everyone in this chat right now, Chris, Kirk, Beth, Leah, everybody, Adam, we're all becoming really smart and selective. There was a time when I was growing up back in the day, I'm guessing when I was a young kid, when adverts were cool. And then people got bored with them because they're everywhere. And they started being selective.
To buy the world
of Coke.
Oh yeah, that's a great
Yeah,
one, right?
absolutely. And we started. So cut to today. All of these people are really clever. And if you look at our lives, we're so inundated by buy my stuff. I mean, I don't know about you. I pay an extra fee to particular channels not to see them.
Yeah,
I'm qualifying out because we're clever. So I think as content is progressing and moving from buy my stuff to influence and trust and all of that, and that based on that kind of Simon Sinek Apple little analogy that I used, we're becoming cleverer. We're becoming much more cleverer and able to qualify in really quickly. Scroll on. Now this is interesting. Bing is an alternative to Google, like Larda was an alternative to Far. And he said Larda. I don't know what Larda is, Alistair. What's Larda? So yeah, that's an interesting piece there.
So
Well, and I
heard you
think
say,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry,
Tracy.
can I add something, Rob? Just one of the things I think too about kind of traditional marketing is there's so much focus on hits, right? Like, so I'm going to put a post and get this many views, or I'm going to make an ad and it's going to get this many hits, right? Like there's this constant coming back to volume of things. And when you're focusing so much on pumping out volume, like I'll be honest, I did it before, right? Like I worked for a company in their marketing department, and we had to put out this many posts a day, or this many posts a week, and this many blog posts a week, and this many cold calls, right? Like everything came back to tracking the number of things. And almost never, I can't actually think of a time when the number is actually the intention. Right. So like Adam, Eric, everybody's been talking about like, what's the goal of your content? If your goal is actually just to put out a certain amount of content, then that's fine. But you can't, if you just have a volume goal, then it's not working towards anything else. It's just being the volume that Eric's trying to avoid.
Tracy Borison covered this topic quite well in her recent article on the very subject of KPIs.
Isn't it an industry that's now addicted to automation and attribution, and that addiction, right, is skewing all activity for them? I mean, it's making it really hard for them to change, marketers to change, because everybody's like jonesing on
they become paranoid that if they don't get out enough volume, then they're going to lose business, right? But
so we'll buy this little box, we'll plug it into the server, and it'll do it all for us.
It means we don't need to do any work.
And it will. It'll
you don't need to
more
do any work.
Volume
You just go home.
Just go home. Yeah.
Can I
wait
add
for the
something
doors to
that
come in?
But I'm sure Tara has something to say about the like relationship connections that are created from just focusing on volume, right? You might forget.
Well, yeah, and actually, I wanted to actually touch on the point, Tracy, that you were making. When I was in the industry, we would spend millions of dollars every year. Literally every board meeting, it was all about how much engagement we got, and they would say, well, and our board members were like, that was perfect for them, right? Like they didn't know any different. They weren't even on social, and so their thought was, well, we'll just do more videos that pull at the heartstrings. We'll go into the local communities, and that's where they thought that we were going to get the most of our engagement, which, to be honest, those did fare a lot better. but they didn't care about anything other than checking those boxes every single board meeting and going, oh, okay, so now we were at 1,000 here, and now we're at 3,000. So that's obviously a good thing, even though we were spending $500,000 or more, right? So it's really, it's really, really insane. So when I started to think about it, I just now look back, and it really pains me to see what they continue to do, right?
Well, and it's one thing when you're the oil and gas industry and you have all the money, right? But small businesses are doing the same thing
At the moment.
yeah, for now. But like startup companies, tech companies, there's I don't know, even more than 1 million, but I'm just going to use the word 1 million. There's 1 million little companies who have amazing things that people need, and they're actually based on a really great purpose and things like that. And they too, because the big companies are focusing on the volume, they too are focusing on the volume, and they're missing the point, right? They're missing all the opportunities to create a connection with people. And if you can create a connection with people in one post, and you cannot create a connection with people in 10 posts, which one do you want to choose?
So there's a little
wanna
mind
pick
warper
up-
right there. There's a little volume of things against volume of relationships. Love that. That's a good one.
I want to
Relationships will
continue the
always
talk
win.
around. I want to continue the talk around numbers, but first, I want to remind the audience. I think we heard right out of Simon Sinek's video. If you want better, if you want cooler, if you want to join us, well, that's what we want here too. We want you to join us, and you've been doing that with your questions and your comments. And please continue to bring those along. Going further along the talk about numbers. How often should you post content?
Question.
Can we talk about the concept of consistency?
Please.
Because I think I hang out with a lot of people who are marketing services. So I see this a lot of the time is like, you have to post every day. If you don't post every day, you will blow up and die, right? Like, has anybody here at all times in their life posted every day?
Well,
Forever.
Yeah, forever.
No.
To build your brand, right? Okay, so this is not.
And we're still here. We haven't blown up.
We none of us have blown up.
in either direction, though.
And so, yes, there's a concept of consistency that's important. But one of the things that often gets confused with consistency is frequency. Frequency is how often you show up, right? So if I show up and I write an article on Mondays and I post every day and I have my LinkedIn lives on Fridays, right? Like that's consistency. Frequency is I post 4 times today on Twitter. That's frequency, right? So it's important to break out the difference between consistency and frequency, because if you only have frequency and you don't have consistency, which is how you show up, what you're talking about, what it feels like to listen to you, and all of those things, then again, frequency becomes irrelevant. Because you're just, I always say to my clients, it's like, hey, today I'm talking about pizza, and today I'm talking about shoes, and today I'm talking about marketing strategy, and today I'm talking about burritos, right? Like people are like, I am not sure what this person is talking about, and I'm just going to go elsewhere, right? Consistency is about what you are, who you are, what you're talking about. Frequency is how often you show up.
But there is a balance to be struck, isn't there? Yes, we have seen, since Tim and I started the business, we have seen there's a relentlessness to our behavior. We post every single day, unless there's some major thing has happened, so we can't. But basically, we post every single day. And what we've seen is that competitors, in quotes, have come and gone. And they can post every single day for a week or a month or 6 months, but they can't do it for 7 years, which is what we've been doing every single day. And part of this, and yeah, there is a frequency thing. More is not necessarily better. If you post twice a day and 3 times a day and 4 times a day and 8 times a day, what happens is that you become that person that is the only person I see on my newsfeed. And the problem with that is that you simply get blocked or muted. So I don't get to see you anymore. And then it doesn't matter what frequency you choose, I don't see any of it. But we do also have to, I think, manage the expectation of people in this space that, you know, once a week is like spending 1 day a week with your life partner. You know, yeah, you won't have that many arguments, but you won't know each other. So part of this is about being ever present, because, you know, one of the things that we all know is that we have our own agenda, and my agenda is not necessarily your agenda. You want me to buy your SaaS product or whatever it is. I want to make my business better. And the problem is that at the point that I realize I have a critical issue going on and I have to deal with that issue now, if you're not there in my line of sight, I'll choose the person that is. And if that isn't you, that will be someone else. But we also have to be mindful of the fact that, posting every day this week and then not for 2 weeks and then every day the following week means that actually people can't find, oh yeah, there is that person that does that.
Yeah.
And I think the key thing to remember is that for everybody, you know, their drivers, I think Seth Godin said it when he said, I've got more important things to do than solve your marketing problem. You know, that's it. I'm not going to go looking for you. You have to be there when I need you. So we do have to strike that balance.
And there is a
carry on, Limit. Go for
there is a practical reality also to having to deal with the algorithms on the platform and what those algorithms do and how they help us. So we can't be so disconnected from that in terms of how we create how we create content and how we post content, that we don't get the benefit of it, right? Because when we're working with the platform, then the platform is going to do a lot for helping us get our message out there.
I think those were beautifully put, both of those points. For me, it comes back to, what are you trying to achieve? The original point that I made. If you are just here for kicks and just here to, you know, your business is running well, you've got market share, you've got all the network that you'll ever need, posting occasionally is going to work for you. But I think getting down to if you really boil it down, if you pressure cook all of this down to why we are on as professional business people on social media, it's debatable, but it probably comes down to roughly 3 things. We're trying to get the attention of a network for the right reasons. We're trying to get the attention of human beings digitally to come and walk towards us and actually see us.
Walk towards
us and see us as a viable addition to their digital lives. That might be in value, that might be in entertainment, that might be just being absolutely, Graham. So number 1, we're trying to attract a network of people for the right reasons, maybe amplifiers, influencers, maybe buyers, maybe new partners, investors, whatever it might be. Number 2, to Linwood's point, we're trying to gain algorithmic support. So if you turn up once a month, you're going to get less algorithmic support than someone that turns up every day, because these platforms want the creation of content. So they reward digitally the people who produce lots of content. And that doesn't speak to quality of content, Vanessa's point, but that's and the third thing is we're trying to drive a response from the internet, which I think is sometimes sadly missed. If the internet is asked a question that you need to be the answer to in your business, we need to have that volume of digital articles, posts, videos, stuff, that digital collateral.
It's so intellectual property.
Intellectual property. When the internet is asked those questions that you need to be the answer to, and it pops its head up like Bing, you know, the wonderful search engine Bing, and it scans the digital horizon for the answers.
Have you got a deal with Bing?
I do. When it scans the horizon, who should I talk to for advice on?
It's a Graham's sponsored chair, isn't it?
It is a big sponsored chair. When in Graham Gordon's case, who should I talk to for advice on internet for business? When the internet is asked that question and it scans the horizon, it should see IFB, his company, and all of their content as a big glowing ball of fire and say, well, there's all the answers. It's profiles, it's content, it's articles, it's video. And what do we get is just, instead of hoping that our $2,000 a quarter we send to the SEO company to make sure that we might appear on page 1 of Google, our website, actually, we're dominating that entire page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4 by our digital presence.
But you're only going to appear on. You won't appear on page 1 if I type in that search string. You have to put a question mark and an asterisk after it, and then you'll appear on page 1.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Graham's earlier content that I want to pick up on here, though. He was saying, does that not related to how often should talk versus listen, and use the two to demonstrate you've shown up meaningfully? How important is it to be a participant in someone else's conversation starter if we're looking at content as a conversation starter?
It's very
super
important.
Very.
It's
Do we
critically
forget
important.
that? Do
Yeah.
we emphasize that?
It's easy to forget it. It's easy.
Broadcast-
How does the algorithm reward my content for doing that?
Well, it's not necessarily that the algorithm is rewarding you, but people are rewarding you. Okay,
Bingo.
so there's
Absolutely.
the law of reciprocity. So when you show up for other people, they will show up for you. And there's something in the power of digital. I can't put my hand on it precisely, but the way that you activate that law of reciprocity is by being outwardly focused, actually focusing on other people, delivering value to other people in lots of different kinds of ways. When I'm creating content for the people who follow me, I'm focused on them and their needs and what their interests are and how I can help them. When I go and I engage with my partners, prospects, people that I want to partner with, I'm focused on helping them, bringing everything that I can to the party and saying, here, let me help you in this way. So there is a currency to our influence, and we use that currency by going out to other people and engaging with them.
The
having
TLDR?
conversations with them. Huh?
Algorithms don't buy anything.
No, the algorithm buys you that. I mean, I don't know how it recognizes, but it definitely recognizes that you're doing that. But I think actually more important than what the algorithm is doing, it's what will happen when that law of reciprocity starts to kick in, because you do that with a lot of people. Okay. And those people start coming back to you. You're going to get, I'm going to say it without explaining it, you're going to get a beautiful growth loop.
2 weeks in a row, you've hit us with the growth loop. And
Yeah.
And now it's trending.
now it's trending. Yeah. Woohoo! Big engagement.
But it's a beautiful thing.
I want to just, because earlier on in the chat, Leah was saying something about how good content is transformational. Transformation happens in a conversation, right?
Yes.
So very rarely do you like see a post and you're like, oh, I'm a changed person. But like, for example, I don't know. And on the flip side, people put a lot of pressure on their content to create that, right? As a standalone, I'm going to post and it's going to be transformational for everybody. So I'm not going to post unless it's going to be transformational. The transformation happens in the conversation, right? So I did a post yesterday about what's your superpower. And somebody who wasn't a connection of mine came to the post and was like, oh, this is curious. Let me think. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's this. And I'm like, ooh, this is an opportunity to have a conversation with a person that actually helps them see their own superpower that they didn't see before. That interaction, that type of interaction, like I can't trade that from a post, right? I can't create that with just the post. I create that through my conversation. I'm giving that person an opportunity to see their superpower for the first time. I always get to be the person who helped that person see their superpower for the first time. That doesn't go away, right? So whether or not they come to one of my events or they become a client or they engage on every post I have is not the point. It's about what value can I create through that conversation. And that's when content becomes transformational.
That
I
is
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
That is
that-
very, very cool.
That's
Well,
amazing.
thank you
That
for
was
joining us
beautiful.
this week.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome contribution. If I could just add one more point to that.
Tough one.
that's a tuppence.
Your tuppence worth.
If I could just add my tuppence to it.
No, don't add your tuppence. Add your tuppence worth. That's a different show. It's a different show.
You know, that is actually, you mentioned something there, which I think gets little attention, which also speaks to what you said about consistency, right? When you're consistently putting out high quality content on LinkedIn in particular, people come, you know, it could be months later and they'll see it and they'll add something to it. So it's not just about what's happening today. It's actually this catalog, this portfolio of content that demonstrates how you create value over time and your thought leadership or whatever your purpose you're doing out there. And by the same token, forgive me for saying this, when you put out trash consistently for whatever reason,
Yes, sorry.
right? You know what I'm saying? Like that, you know, the way I talked about it last week was when you're the difference between depositing ones and depositing hundreds, right? In the bank, right? Honeys is what I said. And then Tim was looking like, say what? But but I said
Franklin.
You have to talk about tuppence, Glenwood.
Okay, so anyway, you know, but that's really important to think about it that way, because you are creating a portfolio that is part of your social presence. So, you know, that those, you know, kind of things that you're putting out there that maybe are not, I mean, think about it, right? Because it's good. It is a reflection, right, of you.
Andrew brings up a great question. How do you know the content has reached its market? How is the content response measured? I'm reminded of Gary V, because we measure content in likes and shares and comments. Gary V has a quick post. What's the value of a like? Simply because somebody likes your comment doesn't necessarily mean they're going to buy your stuff. Eric, was that you had it?
Yes, please. Yes, please. How do you know your content has reached the market, and how is content? So we can tell, we can measure, that's a beautiful thing about social. I grew up in engineering, then moved into sales, and sales was measured on the amount of meetings that we had, the amount of calls we made, the amount of emails we sent, right all the way through to how many proposals and how many purchase orders. We can measure every single aspect of our social connection. We can measure exactly where we're placing content. We write content specifically. If we're trying to move into a new territory, we can make sure that the players in that territory are being reached by that content. We can see all of this. So we measure all of that because we're professionals at social media and social selling and all of that. So this can measure exactly if I'm trying to target project managers in Houston at 3 different companies. We can tell if project managers in Houston at those 3 different companies are actually consuming our content. We can tell that. We can measure that. If they're not, and that's all we're trying to do with our content, we've got a problem. We've got a huge problem, a massive problem, because every single piece of content that we put out needs to be working for us in some degree. And if your aim is to get into markets, because he's asked specifically about markets, you can tell if you're doing that, and you need to adjust if you're not. And there are mechanisms that can be used to do that. We can write specific content to hit specific things. And when you do, I mean, I still say today, we know lots of people who are fascinated by chasing algorithmic twists and turns and all of that. And they beguile people with rings and dots and buttons and clicks and all of that. When in actual fact, if you've got an almost algorithmic change-proof content plan, because you need a content plan. If you're trying to achieve something, you need a content plan that's speaking to what you're trying to achieve. Then you will know if you're getting a response back from that market. I still say today, my most successful post that I ever produced on LinkedIn is not the one that got the most engagement. It's the one that got me the most connections, the most conversations, and the most opportunities to engage with clients and a bit of commercial interaction. It was a 21-word post. I think it got 43 likes and I think 18 comments. But that one post is the most, I can actually tell you the value, the pound, shillings and pence and tuppence worth pence value of that post.
Dollars and cents, mate.
Dollars and cents plus connections, plus network, plus conversations, plus introductions. That 21-word post that I put out early last year is the most valuable piece of content I've ever put out. It hit the markets. I could see that. It gave me what I was looking for, and I was able to convert the activity from it into commercial interaction. Boom.
Beautiful.
But
That's mic drop. That sent us to silence.
Yeah. That's my tuppence worth.
Well, and I
But
think
can you-
what
Oh,
like
go
you
ahead,
can
Tracy.
tell when like if you get into conversations, right? Like we can tell that, right? Like whether that's chat conversation or phone conversation or Zoom conversation or whatever, you can tell if like, did this start a conversation? I like when Eric talks about goals. My goal for my social media post is always to invite people into a conversation. And so did this post invite people into a conversation? Did it not invite people into a conversation? Change and tweak. But the whole point is to have a conversation with a person about a thing. And even if you're not like, yes, I think everybody should track these numbers, but you can feel it, right? Like, am I in conversations with this market or am I not in conversations with this market? If I'm not in conversations with this market, then I'm not hitting the market.
And that, I think that speaks to Graham's point. What's the difference between hitting a target and getting the impact that you need? You hit a target, you get the numbers, cha-ching, boom, done. The impact you need, you're going to feel it in conversations. You're going to feel it in new relationships that are extending your companies or your own reach out into new places with people that can help you.
Isn't that the fundamental mistake that people make with content? They think they're going to publish a piece of content and their inbox will be full of purchase orders. They think that if I create the right targeted piece of content and it's seen by the right audience, actually that will do all of my work for me.
Yeah.
And the message that I would send out to everybody is life doesn't work that way. This is a stepping stone. That if you're selling, particularly in the B2B space, particularly something complex, particularly something that people are going to have pain in implementing and adopting, if that's what you're selling, you'll never sell it from a brochure, only from a conversation.
Unless it's found in a bin.
Unless it's found in a bin, like a brochure. So the purpose of your social activity is exactly as you said, Tracy, to have a conversation. And what it enables you to do is to have more conversations than you can have with the brochures that go in the bin or the adverts that are ignored or the adverts that you choose to pay a premium not to see, or the adverts that in Gary V's case, where he says, this advert has now got to the point where I'm never going to buy a product from this family. And I quote, this family will never buy a Samsung product until I am dead, was what he said, because they kept putting adverts in between him and the content that he wanted to consume. Now, the reality is that all of us, every single person, a little bit of us wants the silver bullet. I've written this piece of content. It's had 100,000 views. That's fantastic. I can sit back and wait for the business to roll in. Well, you'll have a long wait because it doesn't work that way. And actually, the point is that what you want is something where you publish something, it gets some engagement. You can turn that engagement into a conversation, which may lead to closer working relationship, possibly winning a piece of business, possibly them becoming a client, possibly them amplifying, but them at least knowing who you are. That's a win, isn't it? Because that's another step down the journey from them having no idea who the hell you are to becoming an advocate and a client for you.
I spoke to a guy last week that said, this social thing, I'm not sure. I've been pumping out content on LinkedIn for 2 years and I'm getting nothing back. Nothing's happening. So what do you do? Oh, I put out the content. So what do you expect to happen? There's an earning cycle here. There's an influence and trust and relationship building cycle here. What? I thought we just posted the thing. Everyone's just posting the thing. Yeah.
Well, and that's even like your post, Eric, right? Like your post, I like the phrase that Leah used earlier about the stitched experience, right?
Yeah,
if
it's beautiful.
You went and just did that post and had never done anything else and had never had any conversations with those people before, that post wouldn't have done the same thing, right? So as part of the stitched experience, it was like a kickoff point for that business. But if you wrote that post and then didn't have any conversations with anybody after, you wouldn't have closed, right? So we have to have that stitched experience. Otherwise, one post will never do anything.
Leah, look out for Tim Hughes has written 8 blogs since he saw that term stitched experience. For the next 3 weeks, we're going to get amazing blogs about stitched experiences. Mark my words. Ask for a fee, Leah. Ask for a fee.
No, this has been.
I did want to add something to that as well. Like, I'm thinking of my content really as that business development activity extension, right? And then the connections and the relationships that are built. So if you are measuring impact, you're looking at those companies and you're thinking, wow, that relationship, I know 10 people there and I really only know one of them, pretty closely. I value those. I really look at the value in those relationships and those connections, because ultimately that's really for me where it's at.
Yes.
So each week you can look at that from that perspective as well, I think.
Yeah, I think that one of the challenges that businesses face is that they're looking for the stuff to walk towards them rather than them take the next action. And if you pop Andrew's comment back up that he did just a second ago, this is really interesting. Likes and shares are not the same as putting money in the bank. However, they are something upon which you can take an action. The problem is that you post something, it's consumed by 57 people at the company that you want to sell to, and you think, whoa, that's really hit the bullseye. The problem is, Tim and I used to work at Oracle. It's a company of 180,000 staff. 100 people have seen your content. Okay, well, where do you go from here? 100 people out of 187,000 have seen your content. You've no idea who they are. Yeah, you might say, well, they're people that I'm connected to, obviously. Well, maybe not. But if they are, I'm connected to 300 people at Oracle. So, okay, who is it that's seen this content? The thing about a like and a share is that A, you know who the person is, and B, you know that piece of content has engaged them. And you, as the seller or the company, can then take an action on that. Hi, Eric. Thanks for liking my post yesterday. Reminds me we've not spoken for ages. Do you fancy having a chat? And it's that facilitates the conversation. Further to your point, Tracy, that actually it's all about having conversations. And then at least when you're in the conversation, you have some modicum of control over where that conversation goes. And that's my tuppence worth.
and if I can
got a mug though.
And if I can add my tuppence worth, which is that, and this is going out on LinkedIn, and I might get they might detune the algorithm for me, but LinkedIn is only 30% of your social graph.
Yeah.
If
hallelujah.
And some people are fixated that LinkedIn is the be all and end all. It's not. Because because there are people consuming content on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok who are not on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Or they prefer consuming the content on those particular platforms. And people consume content differently on Twitter, for example. You're more likely to share the content on Twitter than if you're actually consuming it on LinkedIn. You generally just let the stuff pull by. So you've got to understand that different platforms act in different ways, and the fact that LinkedIn isn't just the only platform out there. Sorry,
and
LinkedIn.
It's a walled garden.
It is a walled garden, but there again, so is Facebook. Most social networks have built walled gardens anyway. But yes.
Hold on, Tim. Are you just dropped a bombshell there that this is actually about being strategic in the B2B sense with multiple social media and digital channels, not just all eggs in one basket?
I'm talking about walking digital corridors and having digital conversations.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I wrote an article
about the new ring bell feature.
I wrote an article 8 years ago about how a friend of mine was getting 10 C-level meetings a week by using Twitter. It's on my LinkedIn profile. It's 7 years old this year. And the thing is that the story that he told me was that he was trying to target somebody, HR director, and that particular person only posted on Instagram.
Interesting.
So the fact is if you or your team or your sales team are only focused on LinkedIn, you're leaving money on the table. I'm just saying.
Well, and can we also add, though, I'd love to hear everybody's opinion on this, is that, like, how many is too many, right? Like, when do you get to the point where, like, now I'm paying a marketing coordinator for Twitter and TikTok and blah, 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 blah. And we've forgotten. We've forgotten what the intention is. How many is too many?
Well, it's about going where your customers are. So it's not about going for all the platforms. It's about going where your customers are. So, because of the way that life has absorbed digital so much, and that COVID has accelerated that. I was at a concert the other weekend. I saw Heaven 17. 5 years ago, most of the people over the age of 50 would not have had a mobile phone. Everybody, even the paid people over the age of 50, were sitting there before the gig started going like this. Everybody is on digital. Everybody is on some social media platform in some shape or form. Whether it's sharing the pictures with the grandchildren because the children have emigrated to Canada or something like that. There's always, everybody is on social media in some shape or form. In fact, someone at 25 who said to me, if you're not on social media, that means you have something to hide.
Oh,
and I think that is a great example of the feeling today that everybody's on social, and if you're not, there's a bloody good reason that you're not on it.
wow.
And I just what my point being is that this, social is more than just LinkedIn, because I know that we quite often talk about LinkedIn but it's only 30% of your social graph.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
So we've talked about what is good content. We've talked about the intent of content. We've talked about how often should you post, and we've talked a little bit about the measurement. And measurement is not just likes and shares, but it's engagement. I think we can all attest to experiencing personal posts drive more engagement as a whole than business posts. So how do you resolve that personal business conundrum? I mean, LinkedIn isn't Facebook after all.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you?
Yeah.
I think we've said it before. Sorry, Lemma, go. It's yours.
One of the ways that I like to think about it is actually in terms of like how we are as people. In the analog world, you might have been one way at home, on the weekends and in the evenings, and 9 to 5, when you were in the office, you were a different person. Because social media is so pervasive, it's very challenging to live that way, and very challenging to present authentically on social media when you operate in that way. Okay, so we are an integrated whole person, or we hope to be an integrated whole person, and we bring that whole person to social media if you're someone who does it every day. Now, I will tell you that this is incredibly challenging, because most people have been walking through life with some kind of a mask on, hiding their true identity. Because when they go to the office, they don't want to offend anybody, don't want to offend the boss, don't want to offend the colleague. There's appropriate behavior, but when you operate in that way, it's just extremely challenging. And it's still hard for me. I do it every day, and it's still challenging for me to do the whole person thing. It's somewhat less challenging for Eric.
Yeah, I agree.
Practice.
I hate the terms. I hate the terms. I think we should banish them. I think they're holding people back. Business posts, personal posts. I hate it. Set them on fire. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Let's talk about the whole life of the professional. If we're talking about LinkedIn, in this case, We're all professionals on LinkedIn. We all work for someone, or we work for ourselves, or we have team members or whatever, and we're here to try and achieve something. We know that blend of my life, if I continually post about me running down the beach, jumping into the water with my son, or I continually post about how I like mountain biking, or I continually post about the intricate rudiments of structural engineering and project design, and I continually just do one thing all the time at the same tone and timbre, I'm not gonna achieve what I'm here to achieve. So that whole life piece, that beautiful cadence and mix of, when you look at Eric Doyle on the screen here, and you look at Lenwood, Tracy, Tara, Rob, Adam, and Tim, we are not just simply defined by what we do for a living. And the reason that we're here is because of that whole life experience that we've got. And if we put that on display in a particular way, in a particular method, with a particular cadence over time, it allows people to say, there's a specialist that I can trust, but they don't bore me to death, and they don't try to sell to me all the time. I'd like to understand a bit more about them. Third thing, they treat me like an adult. They give me a bit of insight. They're willing to share a bit of helpful advice, share someone's story or a brilliant book that they read, and also they're prepared to give me a bit of insight into their personal life. Not too much. It's not constant.
What do you think about that question, Eric?
The more successful you are, the more likely to feel you can be yourself. Someone who's new to the job force, in a contrived way to be considered. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. But paddleboarding is okay. Yes, absolutely.
Well, and if I can add on to Leah's question, is that for whatever reason, the narrative we have is that people expect us to behave in a contrived way, that I haven't been hired to be just myself, that what I bring to the table isn't what people chose. But when people chose me to do that job, they chose me. They didn't choose me pretending to be someone else. They chose me. Now, if you show up in the interview process, and you pretending to be someone else, then yeah, they did choose you pretending to be someone else. But if you show up in the process and you just can be you, then they hire you for you, and you get to be you, right? So this is like a kickoff point from the personal branding perspective, is if you go into something, if you go into any relationship, same problem with like any relationship, romantic relationships, if you go into it pretending you're someone else, you're going to have to maintain that mask the whole time to make that relationship productive. But if you go into a relationship being your real self, then you get to be your real self. And people who are in a relationship with you are in a relationship with you because of that, not because you're trying to be something else. And you can do that with your content. That is one of the main reasons why personal content does better than professional content, because people are revealing parts about themselves that other humans have experienced the same way, right? Like, oh man, I'm thinking of Eric's posts about how he was so excited to get his TEDx spot, right? Like, I was so excited to get my TEDx spot. This is the feeling people get. They associate TEDx with Simon Sinek and all these big names, right? Like, this is a big accomplishment for people. People want to share in that with other humans. And that's what they get in personal posts that we forget to share in professional posts. But when we do share them in professional posts, it's equally productive. So I agree with Eric that let's not compare the two. Let's share.
Blend the two. Yeah, absolutely. Graham Gordon just said interesting and interested.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to listen to the instrument that only plays one note.
Oh.
Because we're not that. Humans aren't that, right? Robots might like that because robots are like, I do this, right? But humans aren't like that.
Do that again, Tracy. That was brilliant.
What do they do?
That's the newest TikTok dance.
You can use that on the dance floor.
I'm recording it right now.
But awesome. Humans don't do that. The human experience isn't like that. We have feelings and emotions, and we learn and we change and we evolve. This is what humans do. And when you show up like that, people are like, oh yeah, I'm having that human experience. I hate wearing a mask at work. But yeah, nobody likes that.
Instruments.
It's just that's what people think the narrative is. So they keep it that way.
Show up.
Well, and Tracy and I talk a lot. a lot about feelings, and it doesn't feel good if I can't share those other sides of me, right? Because it is who I am as a whole. So I want to be able to share that because other people can relate to that, right? And the experience that I've had in life.
And you get to share what you want, right? Like you get to decide. You don't have to share everything about you in every post, right? Like I'm a mom and I bake scones and I'm a personal branding coach and I care about people doing marketing in a terrible way and all of these things. I'm all of those things. I'm an ex-basketball player. I was smart in school and that meant different things, right? Like there's all of those are parts of me and all of those influence my content, but my content doesn't have to be about all of those things. It's just me sharing from my perspective why I care about we should treat people like people, not robots.
So in conclusion, just post a selfie.
On that note, it has been another great conversation. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Leah. Thank you,
Everyone,
Vanessa.
right.
Thank you, Lenwood. Thank you,
Thank you,
Tracy.
guys.
Thank you, Tara, Eric, Adam, Tim.
Thank you.
Another great conversation. We're looking forward to hearing from everyone again next week. This has been the Digital Download with guest editor you. And thank you for doing a great job.
Great editing.